On this episode of Locked On Angels, it's Fanmail Friday, and you wondered who's going to be an all-star first, Zach Neto or some dude named Anthony Volpe who plays for the Yankees. Right? We're going to talk all about that on this Fanmail Friday. It's time to get locked on with Mike and Jon, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is, and yes, we are. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all this Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or you're listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with Jon and I and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by Prize Picks. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use our promo code LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is Jon, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother Jon.
We're here talking Angels baseball with you 5 days a week. Mike, we're almost through our third year doing this. This is fantastic. We love talking Angels baseball every Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, every single morning. On today's show, we're getting some of your questions on Fanmail Friday, including some lineups. People want to hear our lineups for 2025. We got a few suggestions from our everydayers on YouTube in the comments, so we're going to go through that. Mike, we got an interesting question here about Zach Neto and Anthony Volpe. Why don't you get into that for us?
Yes, Sleepyheads on YouTube asked this question. Between Neto and Volpe, who's more likely to get to the first All-Star game? Who's going to be an All-Star first? So, Johnny, thoughts on if it's going to be Volpe or if it's going to be Neto?
You know what? If Volpe has a decent year coming out of the gate next year, and I think about the fan vote, Mike, and I think about the amount of people who are Yankee fans, I think it would be Volpe getting the fan vote at shortstop. But the thing is you got to compete with guys like Corey Seager at shortstop. So it's not as if getting a shortstop vote is easy, but between the two of these guys, I would say that Volpe gets to the All-Star game based on the fan vote. However, that wouldn't stop Neto from getting selected by his peers, getting selected by the managers who happen to be at that All-Star game that year. So I could easily see, honestly, I could see both of them getting there at the same time, even though obviously I think Neto should definitely be an All-Star in 2025. If he comes out of the gate in 2025 playing like he is now, because remember, he struggled at the beginning of this season. He was having a hard time, but he's made so many adjustments. That's why this has been a figure it out kind of year for these young guys. And Neto, by all accounts, has figured it out at the big league level. So I think if he comes out hot and playing like he is now, if he's the Neto of the middle of 2024 to start 2025, I think he could be an all-star. So in that sense, maybe he gets there first, but what do you say?
I agree with you on the fan vote. I think that because Volpe's a Yankee, obviously more exposure, more people seeing him, all of that. Zach Neto will probably be selected to the All-Star game as a backup because he's going to be somebody that I think who we're seeing right now is who he'll be in his career. My bigger question, Jon, is will we ever have a Mike Trout-like player on the Halos that will get voted in by the fans every single year, even the years when he hasn't been great or he has been injured? I know this year he didn't get voted in because he was out pretty early, but is there a player on the team right now that you would say, oh, that has the potential? He has the potential to be a Mike Trout-esque type of player getting voted into the All-Star game?
The closest I would say is probably Logan O'Hoppe, just based on the fact that, catching, I mean, there's good catchers out there, but O'Hoppe, in terms of the American League and being an offensive, productive guy, he's toward the top. We talked about it the other day. He was fourth in batting average across all the catchers. So that wasn't just the AL, it was also the NL. And so I think he's going to have to compete with Adley Rutschman, of course, because he's a well-known name who plays catcher. He doesn't always catch. He's usually a DH as well. But I don't think there's anybody who is like an automatic, like, oh, that guy, absolutely, 100%. He's in there every year.
Yeah, I think that Logan O'Hoppe perhaps will be the first All-Star because he's been more consistent. I know that he's going up against Rutschman and he's going to get up against some other really good catchers out there, but I think he could be the potential first All-Star for the Halos. My thought, Jon, my theory is that the Angels have to be a whole lot better for these guys to get on the All-Star team. I think that there's going to be some influence that comes from that. They have to be more prominent, and that's why I think Mike Trout was elected. Obviously, he deserved it. He's fantastic. But I do think that the Angels, when Trout came up, the Angels were pretty good. They were in the spotlight, right? And then Albert Pujols shows up and Torrey Hunter was there. And so I think that the Angels have to find that rhythm again. They have to be competitive again in order for fans. And I even think the behind the scenes people who select the rosters, I think they have to be competitive again for these guys to find their way to the All-Star team, especially infielders like a Neto and a Schanuel and an O'Hoppe will probably get more pitchers because you could have a Tyler Anderson type of pitcher every year with the Halos. But I think for these young guys to get on the team, there's going to need to be more eyes on the Halos.
Mike, this is more of a comment than a question, but we like it. James Pack on YouTube, he answered our "this guy" question, which is, what did the experts, quote unquote, say about this guy, Christian Moore, not being able to translate his power using a wood bat? This guy, Christian Moore, is proving all the critics wrong with more than 4 home runs in just his first week of pro baseball. He deserves a chance to show what he's got in the majors this year. What do you say, Michael?
Yeah, I agree. I think that what happens with young players like this is we always end up inevitably having the conversation about, well, over time, consistently, we use those words, right? Give him more time. Let's see what he can do. But when you hit 4 home runs in your first week of pro ball, that is something to pay attention to.
Right.
And I think Christian Moore is that type of player that is an anomaly. He's the type of player that suddenly changes the game. He's the type of player that brings a new culture to a team. And so the quicker that they can get this guy on the major league roster, I think the better it is for the Halos because he's showing something right now, Jon. I know that Zach Neto had a few games in the minors. He was pretty good. So was Nolan Schanuel. Christian Moore has played like the Michael Jordan when he first came up in the NBA, right? Like he's come up and it literally has been, like Wash has said, it's been a man amongst boys. He's really been that good. And even in his 0-for game, he came back the next game and looked even better. And so there's a lot to be hyped about with Christian Moore. And just on a personal level, I love that he's doing so well because I did see a lot of like, well, Perry sucked at this draft or Perry leaped for this guy, or I'm just glad that he's doing so well because it is kind of funny to see the experts who really don't know much about baseball be proven wrong with his performance. I love that.
Yeah, Keith Law saying that it wasn't a good pick. Mike, I loved Daniel on YouTube gave us a 2025 lineup. He said based on what's in-house, he had Schanuel leading off, Neto second, Rengifo third. I thought that was interesting. Yeah. Trout batting cleanup at DH, O'Hoppe fifth, Ward sixth, Moniak seventh. Get this, Matthew Lugo, remember, nephew of Carlos Beltran, and then Christian Moore batting ninth. And then he said Rendon gets DFA'd. And you know what? That actually made an interesting point. Like, maybe you don't need to DFA Rendon because in the times that he's out there, he can be rather productive. But Mike, should Rendon even be starting?
I don't think he should be starting. I think that Rendon might need to bounce around a bit, DH to third base, and then maybe have a day off. I think that you want to see what you got with some of these other guys that were mentioned here. And Rendon being DFA'd, you're still paying the guy. So if he's not a detriment to your locker room, I think you hang on to him because he is somebody that can handle the bat well. Like you said the other day, he woke up and he had 2 hits, right? Like he was able to come out there and do that. We're going to need to see more consistency from him. There's that word. But the truth is he hasn't been a great asset in this lineup. And so I'm of the opinion that I wouldn't have him start. I'd have him filling in and maybe starting 3 out of 7 games, right?
Mm.
Like, I don't think I'd have him in there that often. And if I did, I might have him at DH and not third base.
Yeah, interesting. Matthew Lugo is an interesting choice here. And this year, he's had 43 games in Double-A. Obviously, these all took place with the Red Sox Double-A team. He had a .315 batting average, .405 on base, Mike, .664 slugging.
Wow.
And a 1,069 OPS. Then 36 games in AAA. This was Worcester, and 1 game so far in Salt Lake. A .256 average, .343 on base, .481 slugging, and an .823 OPS. He had 11 home runs in Double-A, 5 in AAA, 9 stolen bases in Double-A, 7 in AAA. He's an interesting piece for next year. I kind of wonder if he makes the case for himself in spring training, where you really want him in your outfield. And what's interesting to me is Daniel has no Adell in this lineup. He's got Moniak over Adell. What do you think about that?
I don't know if I would take Adell out of this lineup. I think that Adell really has shown us that he's able to adjust and he's getting better. And I know we've talked about like giving him a full year. He's still a young guy that I would want to give another full year to, Johnny. And I would also want Moniak in this lineup as well. I think that Moniak needs at bats, and perhaps you have the 4 guys, Ward, Trout, Moniak, and Adell, the way that I think it should have been at the start of this season, and Aaron Hicks isn't a part of that group. I think that those 4 guys are the 4 guys that you want to rotate in and out of the outfield and the DH spot, giving them all consistent at-bats, because Adell has shown when he is on, he's really good and powerful, right? And his defense has improved. So I wouldn't take him out of the outfield. Moniak has shown that when he's getting consistent at bats, he's improving. And so I wouldn't want to take him out of the lineup. And so I think you rotate those 4 guys, left, center, right, and DH in 2025.
Yeah, it's interesting to have Trout DH full time. In fact, we've got some thoughts on that in our 2025 lineups that we'll get to in just a minute. But thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels are playing the Nationals today at 3:45 Pacific time. Mike, it's Anthony Rendon's return to Nationals Park. How about that? Catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. All you got to do is search Angels. Coming up on Locked On Angels, we'll get into our 2025 lineups, but who's quicker on the bases, Mike or Jon? Well, we're going to give you an honest answer coming right up.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Liquid IV. You can get hydrated and stay hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. And Liquid IV is perfect not just to get hydrated, it's also perfect for your workout, hot days outside like in Southern California right now, and long work hours. Get hydrated, stay hydrated, because a rundown you isn't good for anyone, including you. 1 stick of Liquid IV in 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. Plus, it provides 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink. And here's the best part, Johnny. It always tastes great. Always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free. So it's for everybody. And no more dehydration for our everydayers with Liquid IV. And you can get 20% off your very first order when you go to liquidiv.com and use our promo code MLB at checkout. That's MLB at checkout for $20 off your first purchase. Go to liquidiv.com. Tear, pour, live more. Liquid IV.
And today's show is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy. It's also what keeps your car, truck, or SUV alive and on the road. eBay Motors gives you everything you need to maintain your vehicle, level it up to peak performance. You can get superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, so much more, whether you're into speed, power, or style. eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every single time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. That's right. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Is it a Bobby Witt MVP or a Aaron Judge MVP? Well, you decide. Keep your car, truck, or SUV alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And this is Locked On Angels. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Now, second listen time after this show, check out Locked On MLB. You can meet our friend Soli. He's going to prepare you for the dog days of summer and the fall classic, all the playoff pictures. He's got all of the good stuff to share with you. You can find his show, Locked On MLB, on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And speaking of your team, the Halos, they're playing the Nationals at 3:45 Pacific time, and you can catch every pitch of the Angels' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels.
Mike, normally we don't do this, but we doubled up on a question from an everydayer. Sleepyheads had a great question in the first segment, but the second segment here, it's got another great question. Why don't you read that for us?
Yeah, the question was this. This is what actually was sent to our everydayers on YouTube, but you and I are going to answer this honestly. Here's the question. You're the catcher. John's at second. Mike's at first. They try a double steal. Who would you try to throw out? Johnny, the answer's obvious. I think it's pretty obvious.
Obviously. Yeah.
It's obvious, right?
Yeah, it's obvious.
Right.
100%.
Right. So obvious that it's me.
They're going to try to throw you out?
They're going to try. I'm going to make it. They're going to try to throw you out because
No. The question is, who would you try to throw out? And you said it's me because obviously I'm faster and I'm getting to third base.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. See, here's the reality is I ran track years ago.
Yeah, like what, 20 years ago? No, 25 years ago?
You know what? If we raced right now, yeah, I would win.
No.
And here's the key though, Johnny. You don't know how to slide. I remember you in church league softball. You flat on your face, Nolan Schanueling it on the ground.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Did you ever slide?
No, because I was way too fast. I didn't.
No. You're all limbs and legs, my friend. You're just everywhere, all over the place.
It's 90 degrees, man. I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna get in there. So they're gonna try to throw you out and not throw me out.
Let me ask you, when's the last time you ran?
Let's see. My son and I were wrestling, and I was trying to get away from him.
So around the living room a couple of times.
Yes, and I was winded.
And were you winded? Yeah, I was just going to ask you that. So
the key here, Johnny, is that we're going to actually have to get on base. So when was the last time you even swung a bat?
Yeah, when's the last time I got on base? Good question.
You're drawing a walk.
Listen. I'm deceptively fast.
You are deceptively fast.
Yeah, yes. Because I would always hit the ball. I'm a lefty, so I'd hit the ball to left field the opposite way, and then I would book it down to first base every time. So you know what? That's the thing is I also question my ability to slide and do the swim move. So yeah, yes. I don't know what would happen in this.
The reality is in a situation like this, runner at second, runner at first, they're double stealing. Is often you throw it to third because it's a shorter throw, and it's not. And then if you throw it to third and the ball kind of bounces away, you're safe. But if you throw it to second, that runner at third that's going to third, if he's paying attention, could potentially get home if the ball gets away at second base.
Oh, I'd do that. Yeah.
I can see you doing that. Most often in a game, I've seen a catcher throw down to third rather than down to second. I can't think of too many situations where I've seen them throw to second and try to get the backup runner and not the lead runner.
Right. Hey, James Williams on YouTube said, gentlemen, I added that. He didn't say gentlemen. I'm sure he would. James Williams seems like a gentlemanly name. So I'm sure
I think he said athletes,
base runners, five tool players.
Yes.
I'd like to hear your 2025 lineups.
Ooh.
This one I'm really excited for. Mike, do you want to do the honors or should I go first? What do you want to do here?
I like your lineup. Share your lineup because I'm going to be similar to you, but I have a couple of adjustments. So let's start with yours, and then I'll share my adjustments with you.
All right, I'm going to keep Nolan Schanuel at the top of the order at first base. I'm going to have Zach Neto at second, batting second, playing shortstop. I should phrase that correctly.
Yeah.
Mike, I know that I brought this up yesterday. I'm going to bring it up again. I actually played with this a little bit. I think I like Christian Moore batting third, playing second base because of his ability to put the ball all over the field. Mike, you know what? If Mike Trout can't stay healthy, I'm going to full-time DH him, and I'm going to move him to cleanup. If he's not going to, part of my question about Mike Trout is he too muscular? Is that why his body is just going through all the things that he's going through. Like, it's natural as an adult. You get older, you start putting on weight, you start lifting weights, you start putting on muscle.
Sure.
But remember how, like, he was lean and mean? Like, he was never a small guy.
Yeah.
But, like, he's certainly a lot leaner.
Yeah.
In his younger days than he is now. And that's natural. But again, I kind of wonder, would it benefit him to lean out a little bit?
Slim down a bit, too much muscle maybe on his body. I did hear, Jon, this is just a pivot for a moment, but our friends at Foul Territory, Scott Braun actually brought up a really good point about Trout. He said, here's the positive in all of these injuries. None of this is chronic injuries. Mm-hmm. It's not the back again. It's not the ankle again. It's injuries that just kind of haphazardly have taken place. He's taking care of himself and they've happened. And so it's not a chronic injury that keeps hitting him in the same spot every single time. So I appreciated the positivity.
Yeah.
Maybe he got it from us, but that's the one thing that I think that we can be excited about, is that it's not something that he keeps hurting or it's something that keeps him out. Although it seems like his whole body kind of finds a way to not be in the lineup during the regular season.
My only pushback to that is, he's got 2 meniscuses. So he's got two knees, 2 meniscus.
Yeah.
Menisci.
Fungi.
Goosen. Where did I pick up? Mike Trout DH, Logan O'Hoppe batting 5th. I like him in the 5th spot because if Mike or Christian don't get the big hit, Logan O'Hoppe can come through there. I like Taylor Ward batting 6th. I think I've soured on Taylor Ward. I know that he's still been a productive guy, but I just, maybe he's got to win me over again.
Yeah.
But I am putting him in this lineup. Mike, I have Rengifo 7th. I did go back and look to see where his best spots were. Obviously, the top of the order is very good for him, but I put him at 7th because I wanted another quote unquote lefty there.
Yeah.
Because he's a switch hitter. And so I wanted to have a lefty towards the back end. I've got Joe Adell 8th. Then I've got Mickey Moniak batting 9th, another lefty, of course. So that kind of gives you a second leadoff guy. If he gets on base for Nolan Schanuel and Schanuel gets a base hit, you might have a first and third situation with Mickey Moniak. So those are my thoughts on 2025. Again, Schanuel, Neto, Moore, Trout, O'Hoppe, Ward, Rengifo, Adell, and Moniak. Anything to add to that, or what would you change?
I would take Christian Moore out of the 3rd spot. I love that you are jumping to that and taking that risk. That's fantastic.
I just think he can do it. That's the only reason I would put him there.
I'm just not ready for that yet. And so I would have Mike Trout bat 3rd, and then cleanup, I would put Louis Rengifo at cleanup. I think I would have him slapping the ball around. I think having him with the high batting average, I think that he could be an impactful player. I would also interchange maybe Rengifo with a Taylor Ward. I know that we're kind of soured on Ward, but I do think that Ward in the cleanup spot, that's been his best spot. And then if I don't have Rengifo in the cleanup spot, I'm putting him at 9 because I like the double leadoff hitters with Rengifo at the bottom and Schanuel at the top, plus their speed. And with Rengifo at the bottom of the lineup, he did knock in some runs and he was kind of wild on the base pass. And so I like having that movement there. And I would move Mickey Moniak to the 7th spot because I think Moniak is a power guy that can knock in some runs. But I like the double leadoff guys at the bottom of the order and top of the order, and Moniak's on base percentage isn't fantastic. So I want somebody like a Rengifo, better on base percentage, maybe slap the ball around a little bit at the bottom of the order to help the leadoff guy. If I don't have him in the cleanup spot, I think I would move some pieces around. Christian Moore for me would be 6 or 7.
That's where I started him. Yeah. And then I swapped. I had Rengifo 3rd and Moore 6 or 7. And I thought, I kind of like Rengifo as a lefty bat down at the bottom.
Sure. Yeah.
But now I'm looking at it. I realize I have Moniak and Schanuel back to back, 9 and 1 as lefties. So maybe I need to do a little restructuring here. I'll think it through. We've got time. We got before time. 2025. We got plenty of time to think about this one.
Today's show of Locked On Angels is brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. It's America's #1 fantasy sports app. More than 5 million members, by the way, and they're looking for you to join. It's the most fun and exciting way to get in on all of the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. And you can get in on the excitement and win up to 100 times your cash this summer watching the summer games with Prize Picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 while racking up all sorts of money and watching Team USA rack up all sorts of gold medals, which they are. And you can create a lineup of players from across any sport in as little as 60 seconds. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. And you can download the app today, enter our promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, LOCKEDONMLB, all one word, all lowercase, first deposit match of up to $100. Join Prize Picks today. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Hey, how about those Angels taking 2 out of 3 in NYC? The Angels were able to take the series against the Yankees on Thursday afternoon. It was, dicey there because of all the rain and everything, but it was the first series win they've had at Yankee Stadium since 2017. And tell me if that surprises you or not. It certainly doesn't surprise me, but it was a good one. It was a good game for our Halos. Nolan Schanuel got it started for the Halos in his very first at-bat of the game. Leadoff home run. It was a 92-mile-an-hour fastball in the middle of the plate. Nolan turned on it, smashed it into right field. It's his 12th home run of the season. How many home runs would Nolan Schanuel have if he was a Yankee playing in this stadium? That's a good question. Actually, we can answer that based on StatCast, so that might be something fun to look into. Bottom of the second, Jazz Chisholm tied it with a home run off of Tyler Anderson. There was a long review in the second inning. There was a play at first base. I believe it was DJ LeMahieu coming down the line. Why do the reviews seem to take forever when we can see them so quickly on our end? Is it because it's the Yankees and it's because Rob Manfred doesn't like the Angels? We always joke here on Locked On Angels that they pick up the phone in New York and go, who is it? What's the challenge? Angels? Whatever it is, go against them. Fortunately, it went the Angels' way. The Yankees were not able to challenge after that. The Angels answered back that Jazz Chisholm home run in the top of the third while it was pouring rain. Here's my thing. Maybe the Angels would be better if Southern California had more rain, or maybe if the Angels didn't play in Southern California, because this series they've been playing very well. Michael Stefanik doubled to get it started. Nolan Schanuel singled. Stefanik scored. Nolan had his second RBI in the game. Zach Neto followed with a single that put the runners on first and second with no outs. Ohapi flew out to right while Schanuel tagged and moved up to third. Pilar then hit into a double play to end the inning. You got worried because this was more of the same that the Angels had going on in that first game against the Yankees on Wednesday of the doubleheader. In this one, top of the fifth, Stefanik gets it started again. Stefanik singles, Zach Neto doubles, Ohapi walks with 2 outs, and the bases loaded. Kevin Pilar bloops a single into right center. 2-run score on that one. This is great. It was a pitch that was a sinker off the plate, and Kevin Pilar punched it to the right. Rendon followed that up with a walk, and so the bases are loaded. Joe Adell gets up there, hits a line drive to right. Juan Soto tried to dive, and he missed it. Slippery out there. That ball's slippery. That grass is slippery. Either way, Joe Adell gets a bases-clearing double. All 3 runners on base score. By the way, Adell's average since July, this came from Jeff Fletcher of the OC Register, by the way, 270 with a 400 on-base percentage, and he's hitting over 200 for the season, finally. And it's all without that leg kick. He's got rid of that leg kick, and it's changed his timing at the plate dramatically. Brandon Drury got hit by a pitch. Then Moniak had an RBI single, so it made that a 6-run inning for the Halos. Moniak tried to stretch it to a double, but was thrown out. But it was 8-1. So, it's rainy. The guys are having fun. Moniak tried for it, and it didn't work out. Top of the 6th, not only did Mickey Moniak make a leaping catch to rob what looked like would have been a home run off of Juan Soto. He had to time the jump and avoid Joe Adell. It was an incredible play, and I had to laugh because all game long, every time there was a lazy fly out, I shouldn't say lazy fly out, there were flyouts, right? But Mickey Moniak and Joe Adell were chasing them down out there, but Yankee Stadium went, oh, every time there was a fly out, and I just had to laugh because Moniak was like, no, not today. I got this. And he did the same thing against Juan Soto. Anderson also got Aaron Judge in this inning on a broken bat ground out. He pitched to Judge really well in this game. He used the inside corner, struck him out twice. He followed with a strikeout on Giancarlo Stanton. Soto, Judge, and Stanton were 0 for 9 against Tyler Anderson in this one. His final line for the day, 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts on 95 pitches. The Angels added another run in the 8th on a Neto RBI single. He entered the top 15 in the American League in RBIs. Neto had an RBI in every game of the series against the Yankees. Obviously 2 in that first one, 6 in the second half, and then this RBI single in game 3. So the Angels get out of Dodge. It looked like the rain was going to prevent them from finishing this game. Fortunately, they were able to finish, and they did it handedly. And I got to say, winning the way that they did against the Yanks, again, I attribute it to, do they need to play in the rain more? Do they need like cold weather because it's too hot out here for them? I really enjoyed the way that they were playing. Everybody looked like big leaguers. And what I mean by that is I love the way that Moniak and Adell were operating the outfield out there. I loved seeing the timely hitting from like Nolan Schanuel and Joe Adell, Kevin Pillar as well. So these guys just coming through when it counts, making it happen. And it honestly, it's a 9-4, again, handed victory. They handled it well. They won it handedly. And it was a great way to finish out this series. The Angels are heading to DC next. They're going to play the Nationals this weekend, weather permitting. So we'll see what happens there. But you can catch that game on Friday, I should say, today. But if it gets delayed, they might do a doubleheader on Saturday. All in all, feels good to beat the Yankees. And in fact, the Angels have one of the best records in baseball since June, and they actually have a better record than the Yankees since June. It kind of makes you wonder, what if things had been different at the beginning of this season for the Halos? I imagine they would at least be 500, and a lot of teams are, the pack is starting to pull away from 500, but there's a lot of 500 teams that were in the race for a little while. So it is a shame that this season ended up being what it's being, but I got to say, I'm enjoying seeing these young guys perform so well out there. And I really think once they have a full season behind them, it's going to make a huge difference in 2025. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your second listen, head on over to Locked On MLB with our pal Sully. You can listen on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Hey, give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels, and on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. You can follow us there. Whether you're watching or listening to today's show, come on over to YouTube, get in the comments section. We appreciate your comments always. We do our best to get to everybody's comments. We try to do it every single day. Don't always get to, but we'll do our best to get to your comments because we love interacting with you. It's so much fun. Monday, we're going to recap the weekend series against the Nationals. We'll see how it goes. They might play this afternoon. I know there's still rain in the forecast in DC. They might do a doubleheader on Saturday. And then if you're on the West Coast, it's an early start. It's one of those early morning Roku games on Roku TV. So maybe not everybody will be able to see it, but it is going to start about 8:35 or something like that. So it's an early one, but we're going to recap it all for you Monday on Locked On Angels. Until then, my name is Jon, and for my brother Mike, thank you for being here, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday.